GSL Season 2.
Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for waiting. We're going to go into our next match here. This is one that's pretty exciting, honestly. ByuN versus SHIN. SHIN on fire as of the last season. Always looking better and better.
Yeah, it should be a really electric TVZ because ByuN was top 8 in last season, looking so good, especially in the round of 12 and the first couple of maps in the round of 8. But SHIN, I mean, he's really been leveling up. I mean, he just made his second GSL finals ever, got second place to Hero, finally took down Maru, which, I mean, I'm so happy for SHIN finally being able to do that. It feels like the current meta of Zerg, both in ZVP and ZVT, it really plays well for SHIN's style, and I love to see him embracing it.
This is going to be so fun. You know, casting SHIN in the finals a couple days ago, that was like the best I've ever seen him play. And that's saying a lot. I've been casting SHIN for like over 10 years. You know, this guy is one of the fixtures of StarCraft 2, especially here in Korea. Chicken dinner for me today. Well, hopefully you got to be a winner first. But, you know, SHIN, just if he can keep this momentum, I think ByuN doesn't stand a chance. Those ZVTs he played against Maru were incredible. Now, ByuN's a little bit of a different player. But I think the general rule is if you can beat Maru, you can definitely beat ByuN, right?
Yeah, if you can take down Maru, you can take down absolutely anybody. It's just about the preparation. It's about the form on the given day. You know, ByuN is one of these players that I think could go toe-to-toe with SHIN for sure. They had a very close series actually just a couple of weeks ago in GSL Season 1 where they basically ran the gauntlet. I want to say it was went to a map number 3, and it felt like every single map lasted 15 to 20 minutes. I just remember it being a marathon of back and forth fighting. I'm kind of expecting the same thing from them here in the round of 12.
Did he say it's raining today, so I think I'll win?
He likes the rain.
Okay, it is actually terrible outside today.
Yeah, he gets to play from home. I like the rain if I'm staying at home, but if I have to come down to the studio, I hate the rain. My shoes are still soggy. I have soggy socks right now.
That's the worst. You got it. You can't let your feet get wet. That's what Lieutenant Dan said is don't let your feet get wet.
Well, he doesn't have any feet. I don't think he knows what he's talking about. Tasteless.
He would know better than anybody. He has no legs. All right, guys, we're going to go into this best of 3. ByuN versus SHIN starting now.
All right. Second series of the day. ByuN spawning here in the top right as the blue Terran SHIN, the runner-up of the last season of GSL, spawning in the bottom left as the red Zerg. And both these players over the course of the last season have been playing really aggressive styles in the mid-game where they're constantly contesting control, they're constantly looking for trades, even if it means they're playing on a relatively lower eco than you might expect from one of their peers. And I feel like that generally translates into close games between these two where it's really hard for either player to knock the other one out because there's no greed. Or if there is, there's a very small amount of greed compared to some of the other TVZs you get to see. Everyone's really playing to try and be the aggressor on their own side of the map. It leads to some fun games, but it also leads to some absolute marathons.
Yeah, let's see what SHIN's got in store for us. I mean, he did just have that big finals. I would imagine he had to use up all of the TVZ ideas that he had there, right? Like, I don't expect to see any kind of crazy novel stuff unless he thinks there's something that's kind of like maybe a lower level curveball you could, you know, bring out and maybe take SHIN down. Otherwise, sorry, take ByuN down. Otherwise, I think we're going to see kind of standard play from him. You know, and remember, this is like a double Terran group. Like, Cure just won. If SHIN's going to go out here in the fastest possible path, it's going to be nothing but ZVTs. And we also don't know exactly how Cure and SHIN really size up because they were on opposite sides of the bracket.
Yeah, that's right.
From last season, I mean.
This is a very stacked group, honestly, for the round of 12. Cure and SHIN, both top 4 in the last GSL season. ByuN was looking like he was going to make top 4, just barely missed the cusp in the round of 8. Of course, SOS, always a wild card. But here in game number 1, pretty standard openings on both sides. ByuN just going for 1 Reaper into Marines here. With the 1 Rax opening on the high ground, likely we'll be churning out some Reactor Hellions in a couple of minutes to exert some more map control. Whereas SHIN, you know, just a simple hatch opening here on the natural expansion. Queen finishing right on cue to send away this Reaper.
Queen spawn body block there. Back at home, we'll see you know, what kind of game ByuN really wants to give us. You know, ByuN has had some kind of I don't want to say off-brand, but off-standard meta TVZ builds. You know, a lot of people, they go for the third command center here, which I guess that's what he's going to do. I was going to say, you know, he has had a couple games where he's gone for like 3 racks or, you know, some other kind of timing. But this looks like it's going to be a very, very orthodox textbook. You know, 3 CC, 8 racks, push, all mechanics, no deception, you know, classic TVZ build.
Yeah, and if he goes for an 8 racks push like that, I'm wondering if he's actually going to be able to knock out SHIN. Because SHIN in a lot of the ZVTs that he played in the last season of GSL was playing on relatively low drone counts in the mid game, which does make his late game a little bit weaker, but it gives him a lot more chances and a lot more breathing room in the mid game, whether it be him trying to go for counterattacks, whether it be SHIN just trying to parry attacks on his side of the map. And so ByuN does build up to that 8 racks build. I'm very curious how it would play out. I think a lot of it's going to come down to specifically the upgrade timings. So we got to keep our eyes on the production tab for when ByuN is going to, you know, bite the bullet, throw down 2 engineering bays, and invest into the late game. Because I think against SHIN style, one of the things that always strikes me as impressive, especially when SHIN plays against Maru, is how effective very fast upgrades can be against a Zerg player who is focused on the mid game and usually taking into 3-3 and a hive quite late.
So for now, we've got the Roach upgrades coming along. 3rd hatchery's done. And, you know, TVZs like this, they're generally kind of slow. You know, it's both sides powering up, both sides teching, developing. The Overseer, by the way, this is the most cavalier 3rd command center you could ever place. Not attempted to be hidden. Literally right out on the edge, so it gets fast travel time to the low ground. But, you know, that Overseer is going to send Zerg into the exact trajectory he wants versus a 3rd CC right away. Now, we've had some games where Zergs are attacking out on this and, you know, doing Roach Ravager. I don't know if it's going to be one of those games. SHIN did like Roach Ravager into Ultralisk a lot versus Maru. And so, you know, we may have... Okay, so he's droning up a little bit.
It does look like it might be one of those Roach Ravager and Ultra games. Just the fact that
Yeah.
we're going for Roaches so early. Was that an infestation pit that
It was, yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, in my mind, you know, when I see like a 3rd command center and I see the Zerg seed, I think, okay, he's going to take a 4th and, you know, maybe a 5th. He's going to power up. But yeah, it seems almost like what SHIN wants to do is basically grapple with the Terran at the peak of the push and kind of shut it down and start smashing all the other bases and leave the Terran to stabilize so that in the late game, it's kind of easy for the Zerg to clean up as long as you didn't hemorrhage Ultralisks.
Yeah, we'll see if this is going to be the really fast hive play coming in by SHIN. Infestation pit just now finishing up. 2 more gases getting taken. SHIN could afford the hive in just a minute if he wanted to get this started, and Roaches are usually a pretty strong bastion to have on the front line to buy you space, buy you time to actually tech up in the hive. But it seems like for now, SHIN is happy to try and play for the mid game. First, focus on stopping the Marine pressure, or whatever early pressure it is, from ByuN, and that's why we have 3 Infestors getting started, plus 1 Carapace is now done. I imagine we'll have a couple more Roaches and some +2 upgrades come in for SHIN.
Yeah, we're going to get the creep spread. And you know, he's going to hit... Oh, never mind. He's going to loop around from the from this side over here. I thought he was going to actually come to the bottom of the 4th because there's no base there. So he's going to clean up a little bit of the creep timbers. He's not spending any scans, by the way. The Infestors are back. I don't know that the Ravens saw it or not. But, I mean, look at ByuN. He's so good with the dance of the Marine medevac. Clearing the creep tumors. Again, with that Raven, just a spot, so you don't have to waste scans. You can keep landing mules, you can keep powering up back at home, and then never letting those Infestors get close. 1-1's going to finish up, but 2-2 will start right after that.
Hive about halfway done now for SHIN. Transition into Ultralisks coming through the pipeline right now. Seems like there are enough Roaches and Lings to force back ByuN from this position. And we'll turn and trade with 1-1. A little bit of damage done. The Lings actually don't even have speed just yet. It's a bit of a funny chase right now by SHIN going on a ByuN side of the map, but you gotta be careful pushing all the way into the Lion's Den here as SHIN.
Yeah, and I don't think SHIN's gonna actually push in and hit. I think we're past that point in the game of any kind of like real Roach Ravager like attacks, but he is gonna get that Ultralisk Cavern. He will eventually get that 5th base, and it's gonna be grappling time. He's gonna really try to shut down the Terran as he moves in. Now Terran's gonna push into this. Here we go. Huge armor shred there. The fungals are great. It does not kill the tank. The corrosive biles, excuse me, do not kill the tank.
Biles just slightly misplaced there by SHIN, so Siege Tank will survive for now. Ultras Den about halfway done. This is a big window for ByuN to try and get some damage done of his own. He's already making a transition to easily bridge the gap later on.
I don't feel like Terran should be attacking her. This feels way too deterministic.
I don't mind it too much by ByuN. I mean, unless you get a money fungal here as SHIN, it's pretty tough to actually unseat Terran in this position, especially with the tanks there on the back line.
Okay, we're gonna see. He is gonna fungal it again, and those biles are gonna decimate everything that ByuN has. 4 Ultras are coming. The 5th base has started, by the way. Oh, I'm sorry, it's almost done, actually, by the way.
Yeah, well, I mean, SHIN got the money fungal, so now this is a very scary position here for ByuN. Counterattack coming into the 3rd base. Lings decide not worth trading themselves out for the SCVs just yet, as ByuN has the rally pretty close to it. The power spike for Zerg's be coming in just a minute. 4 Ultras are on the way. +3 Carapace also getting research. Ultralisk armor getting started. Adrenal as well. There's about to be a huge power spike for SHIN, and I think once these Ultras are done and the upgrades are nearing completion, that's probably going to be the cue for SHIN to go.
Okay, so the 4th base is going to be planted right out here in the middle. And this is probably where it's Zerg's turn. Chitinous plating's almost done too. And this is kind of the moment. Well, first Zerg's going to have to deal with this. Oh, actually, I think he doesn't know about this. Might not matter. Zerg might just go and hit this anyways. Although, does Zerg even know about the 4th base? He's like kind of going in a weird direction here. Seems like he's hitting a harder location.
And in any case, SHIN favoring that 3rd base positioning as the angle of attack. Adrenal done, so those Marines have to get out of there in a hurry. Now the Ultralists are charging in, but this is a very tough angle. I mean, the Sim City for ByuN is excellent. Biles will be able to take down one of the siege tanks there on the top right side, but you can really see what a bottleneck this is. The Roaches and Ravagers all cut up there on the right side. On the Ultras, on the left, are finally able to break through, but SHIN just couldn't get on top of the Terran army because of ByuN Sim City.
I don't know why he went there. It was like, at the start of a game, it's like you choose your difficulty level, and they're like the normal would have been the 4th base, and then like extreme mode is that. Like the tank wraparound was so good. I don't know why he did that all. Now, I'm not saying SHIN's going to lose, but I think hitting the planetary in this base over here is way better. Wait, is it an orbital at the 3rd base, or is it a planetary?
I think it
should be an orbital,
yeah,
right?
It's an orbital at the 3rd, a planetary at the
unless
4th.
he like swaps that off, which wouldn't make any sense. So, okay, well, he's going to attack it again. Supplies are looking pretty daunting here for Terran. I mean, Zerg's maxed out, but 177 is a pretty decent amount of units to have in this game.
Well, ByuN's already weathered the most difficult part of this game, which was deflecting the first big attack of SHIN. Doesn't mean SHIN doesn't have winning chances. He's going to get all the way into the main base right now with these Lings. Right, into the natural expansion at least. Adrenal Lings here in the natural, taking down SCVs, going for the upgrades. If they can take the engineering base out, that would be huge.
Yeah, getting that armor would be massive. I see no repairs here. Denied.
That's a big win for SHIN.
SHIN needs to hit a couple more times here. And again, dislodge a base. Push the Terran back. Now, I think getting rid of armor is massive. You're going to have a lot less sustain against everything that SHIN has. But it's going to come down to this base that we're looking at. Okay, and here's where the big gas dump goes. The Banelings are meant to really crack the position open. Terran can no longer kite and use this. Ooh, what escape. Talk about finishing it just in the nick of time there.
Only one infestor for SHIN, so not the potential for a lot of fungals. The next main engagement, ByuN going to deny another expansion down. 6-spot position, and now SHIN charging in right now. 5 Ultras leading the way on the top side. This Bio's already stemmed a ton. Armor Shredding Missile actually connecting with some of the Zerg units right now, and the stutter step micro from ByuN is excellent. Back into the Sim City. I look at these depots, just built to be a little bit of a logjam, just make things a little bit more claustrophobic for those Ultras. ByuN has been so good with his Sim City here in this game number 1. It is not easy for SHIN to actually charge into either the 3rd or 4th base.
Okay. I mean, this is SHIN looking very scary. ByuN still has a footing here. But so many Banes are out. The 5th base is going to be taken. We need to watch how the Banes connect.
A lot of this is going to come down to the Banelings. Although, you know, ByuN's already hedged his bets a little bit by being such a Marauder-heavy composition. I mean, look, there's 1 Marine with this entire drop. There's 28 Marauders to 17 Marines on the map.
You could just like make mutas and kill this whole army.
Yeah. I mean, ByuN's army, it's designed to just absolutely pulverize Ultralisks and Roaches, which have been the main units that SHIN has been building. Of course, now it's Ultraling Bane, but the Ultras are really the main threat here for ByuN. And so ByuN has been focused on this even before adding in Ghost. We still have no Ghosts on the field just yet.
We have the Planetary done at 12 o'clock, too. So I don't know if you can get in there. You know, SHIN's style like this was on full display in the semis of last season, again, just a few days ago. And Terran seemed to be pretty aware of what the game plan is. This is unfortunate. This does feel a little bit too late, so there's going to be some freed up supply for SHIN. SHIN, though, you know, Terran is just going to kind of hunker down here. Now, we can go into a game that's kind of like all the TVPs we cast, where the Terran, you know, sits back and maybe the Zerg actually, you know, maybe the Zerg plays like a Protoss state and just takes the whole map. Kind of a swarmy Zerg style of play. How novel. But, you know, ByuN hasn't made his move yet. I think ByuN's kind of waiting for the attack to come in so the counterpunch can come back out. But right now, SHIN's kind of freezing him out. Not really doing a whole lot. Kind of playing single player. And I don't really know where the game goes from here. I do know that SHIN is banking and ByuN is banking a lot of gas. SHIN's minerals banked up is comical. It's like 5.6.
Yeah, the bank is absolutely huge here for SHIN. I think that ByuN would be pretty close on the bank, but he's been building so many macro command centers that he can eventually sacrifice some of his SCVs and get a more effective army supply. 6 command centers are finishing up right now, so that's a heavy investment by ByuN.
Yeah.
And at this stage, honestly, ByuN just needs to take 1 more expansion, and if he can hold on to it, he's going to be in a pretty good position because, yes, SHIN does have this big bank, but ByuN, he's adding in Ghosts. He's got a lot more upgrades coming in. He's already started the vehicle weapons. Vehicle weapons level 2 is about to finish up. And if he can start the transition into more of a Ghost mech composition, that's really going to complicate matters for SHIN. Then it's going to be a lot more about spellcasting prowess as opposed to just having a good bank or just having a powerful army.
By the way, we're almost out of map. I'll talk about more of that in a second because the attack's going to come in here now. And again, if you look at this gauntlet that you have to work your way through, the Banelings are going to go ahead and hit the Planetary, but you just swap in the backup. You literally have command centers lined up, ready to just fill in the gaps. He does decent damage. Both sides will try to refill their supplies, and a squadron of Marines and Marauders and Medevacs are going to come down here and absolutely murder everything that's in this position. There's a tank somewhere there for some reason.
The 3rd base of SHIN. Yeah, tank and Ghost a little bit lost in the last few minutes here for ByuN, but it's understandable. The map has been so crazy with aggression. And the game's going to quiet down again a little bit, I think. You know, for ByuN, the real difficulty in approaching the game right now is that the 5th base is much more challenging to take than any of the 4 bases. You know, he's really nestled himself nicely up in this top right corner with the SimCity, especially with these orbitals now being added in, that create a logjam if Zerg were to attack in. But if ByuN were to expand to the top left base, which already is largely mined out, actually hold that thought, as SHIN's going to be charging in once more towards the 3rd and 4th location. And that's a lot of Overseers, but on the ground, I don't really see that much for SHIN. Oh, Fungal connecting as well as Banelings. Okay, that's a lot of Ghosts going down.
Yeah, and I mean, look at the supplies here. 124, so that was like the bulk of everything that Terran had. I think SHIN can have the closer here. I mean, the supplies right now are hilarious. I mean, there's 6 ultras and 20 links. So what he needs to do now is hit 12. And I think Terran will be suffocated out of the game.
And SHIN's economy is just absolutely huge. ByuN was never able to secure that 6th base.
You know, it's funny, when I was watching this, I thought maybe SHIN waited too long, and like, apparently not. Apparently he just, you know, let Terran Tech into this and said, okay, I'm gonna hit you now. And that next target's gonna be hit. And the problem for Terran is, like, Terran may catch up close to maxing out before this hits, but how much is gonna be traded out then? And you know, how many minerals are even at the 3rd base? I'm not even sure, but this game's 18 minutes. Oh God, it's so many Banes.
50 Banelings transforming right now, as well as Broods. SHIN's basically going for a supermax army. I mean, he's already maxed out on 200 supply, but then when you invest thousands more resources into just transforming Banes, this is like a get out of my game kind of move. Let's see if it's gonna work.
Yeah, I mean, this is gonna be pretty painful. Again, he's gonna try to push through here. I guess if he breaks this, he can break 12 too. The tanks are just not going to be enough, and even though the ultras have a hard time fitting through, every single tank is going to be hit. The Banelings, it's an inevitability they're going to hit over here. Maybe not, actually.
Wow.
Kind of squeezing through that corner. Now, the Broodlords are still out here.
I mean, the Sim City is just so good for ByuN. It's giving him a lifeline here versus SHIN.
What's at 12 o'clock? Why is he not going there?
Oh, you mean the expansion for ByuN? I feel like SHIN just didn't want to attack past all those orbitals. I mean, it's a lot more choky than it might look on the minimap.
Nah, that's true. That is true. Well, SHIN's gas is basically 0 now. The biggest power spike he had, by the way, he's taking more gases on the map. This is something I think we're seeing Zergs not do quick enough, by the way. You don't need to take all the gases right away because that's way too many drones on gas, but you should, as you do this remaxing, have the gases sooner so that you can basically dump more gas into more important units. Because I mean, it's the same thing that happens for Protoss when they max out and take the whole map. Is it's like, well, you only have minerals, so you only have zealots. If Zerg only has minerals, they only have Zerglings. And Zerglings are fine. In fact, they're necessary, but they're not everything. They can never be everything. So from here, we're going to see ByuN try to weather the next storm. And he already did the first, I think, with a much with a much more sophisticated army. And now we're going to see this base get hit. I think he shouldn't go there at all. I think that's the right call to turn around, hightail out of there.
Yeah, and ByuN's really moved forward with a lot of his static defense, in particular the siege tanks, just getting entrenched because he knows that this is the most vulnerable position ByuN has to hold on to here right now.
By the way, center right, Zerg's taking. That's going to be important because if ByuN stays in this game, ByuN has to take the center right. That's actually the last space he's going to be able to take this game. Because this one's almost mined out.
And SHIN's actually taken it twice. There's 2 entries morphing in there for some reason.
One of those is the orbital, the other one's the planetary.
All right,
here we go.
Attacking into the 5th base now. There is a planetary all the way in on the front line. Look at that. On the minimap, I honestly just thought this was going to be another orbital.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a smart move. ByuN is basically playing a tower defense game right now, just trying to survive the onslaught of Zerg.
He should send the Broodlords up here and try to clear that out.
The issue that I'm seeing for ByuN is that even the most healthy bases, the 4th and the 5th expansion for ByuN, are mostly mined out of minerals. There's only 4 patches remaining at each of them. You can play this kind of exhaust style as Terran and have the Zerg consume more of the map than you, but you eventually do need to secure a 6th base. And as you said, I think it's likely going to be the one at the 3 o'clock position. That's the easier one to take. It's the easier one to defend. And it's also the freshest base remaining on the map. But already, we see right there, there's not a lot of minerals left. Even those 4, I think, are starting to dissipate. And now SHIN going to charge in once more. This planetary finally getting busted down. Orbital going to lift to allow the Marines and the rest of the bios to actually retreat past these siege tanks. And it's another very cost-efficient trade here for ByuN.
There's like nothing here. We never actually looked at this base. The base is like empty.
Yeah.
I don't even know if that's worth it to do. There was more spent in units lost for Zerg than there were minerals that Terran could then take in there. In fact, I almost think he shouldn't be attacking right now. I didn't appreciate how down Terran was in minerals. Now, let's see. The counter push is going to come. Now, by the way, Terran is like starving to death for resources. So, like, this counterattack could be in some ways fatal just because Zerg has got to be almost mined out here, too. This bottom right base is not, but I think everything else should be, right?
Yeah, I think it's 8 mineral patches in total for Terran right now.
That's so funny because I totally did not appreciate how much the mules had sucked out of that base. So, again, ByuN's very low. Very, very low in supply. Even lower in minerals. But Zerg doesn't really have gas.
Okay, so there's about 800 minerals remaining in that base.
Yeah.
Maybe 1,000 at 12 o'clock? Perhaps a little bit more. You need a Sith expansion. You got to realize this. He's going to be rotating, I imagine, multiple orbitals to try and create a logjam by that 3 o'clock position.
Okay, he's going to just ooze this down. I don't even know about... Well, let's see. He's going to take this out. I mean, that's something, right? But the orbital just pops over there. What I'm more interested is the base at 3 o'clock. This base right here.
If ByuN can take this game, or take this base, excuse me, I think he can possibly take the game.
Yeah, and the thing is, ByuN has a very sophisticated army. Obviously, masslings are still scary. They're hard to kite, right? He's going to make Banes. This Ultros is entombed in the Baneling eggs.
SHIN once more attacking the 12 o'clock position. By the way, ByuN, he made a command center to not turn it into an orbital and flew it down to the 3 o'clock position to add in one more planetary fortress and just try and make it even more difficult for SHIN to actually break through.
You need to get this Ultros out of there.
Look at that planetary morphing in. I mean, the defensive planetary additions here for ByuN, both at 12 o'clock and down here at the 3 o'clock, is just excellent.
The Hellbats play is very, very much like, I know exactly what my win conditions are. I need to survive Zerglings. There's a... I'm sorry, it was just on screen. How many Banes are there?
Oh, I didn't quite catch it. 117 have been lost. There's 23 on the field right now.
I was like, what? He's going to come in here. He's going to clear this out. The Hellbats are actually not well placed, so they don't really serve the role. You kind of want to wedge them up here.
And looking at the minimap right now, just doing a cursory glance of SHIN's expansions, it seems like most of them are also down to about 4 mineral patches apiece, even the base in the top left and the bottom right. And luckily for SHIN, he has enough of the map that this is going to prove to still be a sizable income right now. You can see he's at around 2,600 minerals a minute. But eventually these two will start to run out. And ByuN has the most fresh base on the map by far at 3 o'clock. I really think the win condition for SHIN was denying this expansion. And now that ByuN has stabilized and entrenched himself over at 3 o'clock, I'm not sure if SHIN's actually going to be able to break him anymore.
Yeah. You know, when Terran has even one base, you know, sometimes you look at one base and think, okay, there's only so many resources you can take from that. But, you know, Terran with a lot of orbitals, they just fire mules down on that and just take everything out so fast. Oh, he's going to snipe the Overlords.
Wow, snipe the Overlord holding an Ultralisk.
Yeah, that's
a big
insane.
snipe. All right, SHIN attacking in with, honestly, not that much. It might be enough aliens to take on the Planetary Fortress, but I think the base will stand.
Well, hold on. There's not really... Oh, actually, there's much more up there than I thought. But the thing is, can the Corruptors take this out, maybe?
It's trying to land, but...
Okay, he pops it.
I mean, there's so many more command centers where that came from, right?
I know, but even to slow down the income for a minute, like, look, he's at 36 minerals, and that has flatlined.
Yeah,
Terran's scary because what Terran has is a better army. Zerg has, by the way, now actually a lot of gas. This is, you know, time has passed. Terran's going to do a counterattack, which I think Zerg's going to have to just, you know, take on the chin.
16 broods. This almost, I mean, we're at 26 a minute, so using this term, it sounds ridiculous, but this almost feels like an all-in move here for SHIN.
No, I think this is an all-in move.
He needs to win with the broods.
You can all-in this late in the game. I think people think that's an early game only thing, but absolutely you can all-in.
There just isn't enough gas income, I think, to really accompany this with that much more. The broods are going to be the central piece for SHIN moving forward in this map. He's already lost the bottom right base. Most of these Vespene geysers that you see on the minimap have actually already depleted. And so for SHIN, can 16 broods make it work?
By the way, Terran has, you know, actually just slightly more supply in army, which means basically Terran has almost no workers and is using mules, which is normal. That's what Terran should be doing at this phase of the game. When you see Broodlords, sometimes the play is to just not engage them and to go around, which means Terran would give up an income, but maybe poke out the rest of the remaining bases here. I don't believe that ByuN was ready for this. This may be blindsiding him, and the Broodlords are just annihilating everything.
Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, just, I don't see how this base stays alive. There's no real anti-air. There's not enough infantry to actually fight underneath this. Are there any corruptors to fight? Oh, yeah, you can just hit that like that. Oh, they don't even have anything to hit that with. That's so funny. All right, so he's going to come in here with the Banes. I think Shin just won the game.
Blinding Cloud, forcing everything away. And the last mining base for ByuN is taken out. Broodlord's continuing to push through a big remax of Zerglings here for Shin. And unless ByuN can get snipes in somehow on these Broodlords, I think there's enough momentum here for Shin. ByuN's army, it's not going to get better than what you see right now. There are 4 more Ghosts in production, and that's it.
Yeah, this is looking pretty dire. I think ByuN is basically dead. By the way, Shin having some of the best endgame ZVT ever. Like, he's, GG, I think he's kind of, in my mind, replacing, Rogue out here in Korea as kind of the guy that just knows exactly how to play every beat of the longest ZVT imaginable. And by the way, ByuN played a great game there. But you can see, you can really see that, like, Shin just sort of knows when to go hard and then when to stop entirely.
Yeah, that was a marathon of a TVZ to start out this series, and you got to think that it's going to be testing the endurance of both of these players as we get ready to move on to Taito Citadel for map number 2. And I was worried for a long time there for Shin, despite the fact that he was up on bases. We occasionally got looks at the units lost tab, and ByuN was just so much more cost efficient that you got to question whether Shin having the majority of the map was even going to matter. But at the end, finally being able to push ByuN off of the last remaining base, the 3 o'clock expansion, which was really just the epicenter of all of his income. I don't think there was a single mineral patch left on the map for ByuN besides that 3 o'clock base.
Yeah.
And that was just the perfect move by Shin, and it cost him everything. Every last gas was spent on that Broodlord transition. Shin could not do that again. And the TVZ went all the way down to the wire after 30 minutes. Are we going to get another exhaust play TVZ like that here in map number 2?
I don't know. You can see, by the way, ByuN, these are wrist stretches he's doing. Whenever, and I feel like I almost only do this for ByuN, but he's probably the most known player with, some level of injury. But, those long games are taxing on your body. They're taxing on your mind. I don't know, maybe he'll like to do a fast game or do some kind of cheese. Shin could certainly do the same.
All right, map number 2. Taito Citadel is loaded in. ByuN spawning in the top left is the blue Terran. Shin in the bottom right is the red Zerg, leading this series up 1-0. Yeah, I'm right there with you, Jason. I'm wondering whether we're going to have a little bit of a mix-up in terms of game plan because, in particular for ByuN, I mean, this is the sad reality is that his wrists, they often are the weakest point for him as a player. You could tell, especially in more compressed seasonal formats, or if there's a really long day, how it starts to affect his play and the quality, and particularly of his micro, which, when he is healthy, is among the best, if not the best, in the world. After a 30-minute TVZ like that one in game number 1, do you go for something a little bit more aggressive in game number 2? I can see right now that ByuN is going command center first, but that doesn't necessarily mean that ByuN wants to play a long macro game. In fact, some of the most effective timing attacks in TVZ in general begin with the command center first because it brings your timings online so much faster, so much stronger. If you're playing for something like a 5 racks or something like an 8 racks, there's a lot more power behind it.
Right. Yeah, I mean, that early greed can lead to the sharpest power spikes ever. Where Zerg can just get smashed. We did see Shin go for some proxy hatches, but, I think that's kind of map and player dependent. I also just think, so are all the maps, by the way, for this season the same?
Yeah, I think it's the exact
I believe it's
same
the exact same map.
Season 1.
So I always, in my mind, think that, proxy hatches, the longer that you have the same maps in a season, the less likely they are to be reappearing, unless one player really thinks he's totally dead against this guy, unless he does something like that. I also, and I could be wrong, I could be kind of, trying to be in these guys' heads a little bit too much, but I also suspect that Shin thinks Cure is a stronger Terran and might have more specified, tailored builds that might be strong that he doesn't want to use against ByuN. I think we've seen Shin in one of the biggest pro gamer growth spurts ever, right? I mean, this guy got 1 GSL finals a long time ago, and that was like a Cinderella story, by the way. Like, that was crazy that he did that. And then he got totally murdered. He got his face ripped off 4-0 in the finals. And then he kind of went back to being like around where we expect. And by the way, I'm not making fun of him. I'm not knocking on him. But, like, you know, if you watch a lot of StarCraft 2 professionally, you certainly know kind of where some players rank, and that's why upsets are exciting. Or, you know, it's really something to admire when you see a guy who's just been so consistently good. Then, years later, SHIN comes back. He 3-2s Morrow in one of the best TVZs I've ever cast. And, you know, he does it not with gimmicks, not with, like, a new kind of tech. It was just, like, the best late-game ZVT ever. You know, I mean, up there with the GOATs like Cyril, or like we've seen Rogue before. And I think that the kind of SHIN that we're looking at now is one that has really mapped out a tournament and not just an opponent or a group or a best of 5 or a best of 7. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, he's really gotten a lot better, especially over the course of 2025 and 2026 in GSL. And that's saying a lot because SHIN has been one of the best Zerg players in the world for a long time. But talking about builds a little bit here, Tasteless, SHIN going for a 2-hatch lair and then taking the third base, but he's taking the third base after taking every single Vespene Geyser. I am so perplexed about what this might actually be coming in from SHIN, and it's critical that he denies the scout, even though ByuN seeing 2 additional gases getting taken here in the natural expansion is a bit of a tell.
Oh, is this gonna kill or not? Okay, that could have been a lot. That could have been bad news, is what I'm trying to say.
Could this be a Spire play here for SHIN?
Well, it's got to be something gas heavy, right? Unless it's like, yeah, I was gonna say, unless it's like so advanced, it's like, oh, I don't even use those. I sacrificed two drones just to make you think I'm teching.
Fast Spire for SHIN. Now, we did have a Rogue game. I can't remember if it was GSL or RSL that happened in recently, where Rogue played, it might have even been on Taito Citadel, a ZVT, where basically his entire army value was in Mutalisks. It was a 2-hatch lair build, very similar to this one, and most of the resources that he made, it went directly into Muta. It wasn't a lot of Ling, Baneling accompaniment, even though we typically see them. I feel like this game might potentially go the same way, especially if SHIN in a minute or so takes the extra Vespene Geysers here at the third base. Now, he is, of course, crossing his T's and dotting his I's. He's getting all the upgrades. He's getting the Baneling Nest as well, so that he has these units available. But, I mean, the gas just come online so quickly here for Zerg. I'm really scratching my head about how Muta-heavy this might potentially be.
Yeah, so this is a totally different game here from SHIN. Now, Banshees, I don't know if I'd say they're good or bad versus this. The thing is, you need to see, can they get the kills? If an Overseer can track onto this, the Mutas are going to kill it, and you're going to have a pretty weak Terran. But, you know, whenever you see Banshees, it's like when you see, you know, are Hellion run-ins good? I'm like, well, it depends on whether or not they kill drones. Same thing with the Banshees, like, do these actually get much done? Now, he might suspect this is Mutas because he saw the 2 gases at the expansion, which would probably, you know, telegraph some kind of tech, and I think Muta's the most obvious tech for that.
Yeah, meanwhile, on ByuN's side of the map, I'm actually not seeing a third command center looking at the minimap just yet. I was more focused on SHIN's build in the early game, but I think ByuN is ramping up to try and do some 2-base aggression. And this usually, oh, there is a third. It's in the wall end. So I was getting a little bit deterministic about what ByuN might have to do if he was trying to play a 2-base style versus what SHIN is going for. But adding in the third command center, defense is also very much a possibility for ByuN to just try and play another slow game, another exhaust play. You don't have to necessarily end the game versus a Mutalisk player, although the threat of the base trade, it's constant, it's real, it is a threat. ByuN could take this game wherever he wants to from here, I think.
So he's going to come in here and hit these Banshees. These Banshees are never going back home. And, you know, 7 drones down, probably not good enough, right? The Lynx, by the way, get a great surround. Oh, God, they're going to get the Marines, too. 1-1 is going to finish. I was going to say, these Mutas, oh, that sucks. Getting 1 picked off like that is pretty bad. You know, it's funny, Mutas, you really don't want to lose even a couple of them because it's important to get that power spike, get the Muta balls out. And you know, one of the strengths that Mutalisks have is if they're not targeted directly, damage tends to distribute pretty evenly, and they're pretty tanky units. Now, the 4th base is going to be hit, but this is like 1 fight where both sides are just hitting each other. No, never mind. The Bermudas are going back. What is happening to Shin here? He seems to be like actually kind of fraying at the seams.
Yeah, this counterattack by ByuN is getting some really good damage done. It will almost certainly cancel the 4th hatchery, but you know, the creep spread is good enough. I don't think you can really push into the natural expansion or the 3rd base just yet here as ByuN. Look at the production tab, no 4th command center. I think this might just be an 8-racks type play where ByuN is trying to end the game with the initial setup of these 3 command centers that he's got right now. And ByuN's even done the very smart move of adding in a 2nd factory because he knows that Shin is going to be relying very heavily on Ling Banelings to accompany these mutas to help make them effective to deal with the counter Marines before it snowballs out of control. And adding in just a couple of Hellbats, or more likely, you know, double factory Widowmine could be absolutely huge here for ByuN in a little bit once he starts up the production. Now, Shin, he is re-expanding, taking the bottom left base. The gold expansion here is his 4th. But the threat of ByuN attacking in is real. We have more Marines than Zerglings on the map by a long sight right now. So unless those 16 Banes are able to get good connections versus what ByuN has got, I mean, in a head-to-head battle off creep, ByuN wins 100 times out of 100. I'm just not sure he can actually push into Shin right at this moment.
Okay, this is kind of bad for Shin. You know, losing that 4th base is probably the most simple way to be knocked off the horse here. Oh man, he loses another muta there. He's gonna do that double expand. The Ling counterattack's pretty good. We need enough muta Ling Bane here to really fight. And right now, okay, hold on, the Widowmines are gonna go down here. Can they target the mutas?
Good shot on the Lings, at the very least there for ByuN. And this is an interesting pivot that ByuN is making. He's not actually going into double factory Widowmine, as I suspected. He's instead mixing in Thors really much earlier than I would have imagined against a Mutaflock, which is still quite tame. It's only 17 mutas on the map right now, although more are finishing all the time.
Okay, he takes the turret out. Marines come back up. And, I mean, he's taking whatever swipes he can. The Thor's going to be thrown up into the middle here. And, I don't know. You know, this is a different tech. This is an older way to play. Now, old is not bad, by the way. But I do feel like we're really seeing ByuN make real strides here in his progress in the game. Overlord's going to be picked up. This is going to supply block Shin, so we can't make more Banes. And, you know, with the bottom left base gone, like, I don't know. I mean, I just feel like we're seeing Shin kind of fall apart here. This is one of the most straightforward TVZs ever. I feel like I'm casting a TVZ from years past.
Yeah, Shin struggling to take a 4th expansion is so painful right now. At last he has a 4th base online. Mineral's just saturated at the 10-minute, 30-second mark, but the 10 minutes and 30 seconds of Zerg and Terran effectively being even on bases is heavily Terran favored, and to add insult to injury, I feel like the lack of creep spread now, which is in no part Shin's fault. It's more ByuN just succeeding at controlling the middle stage of this game. It's going to be a challenge for Shin to get any sort of meaningful Baneling connections on this army because there's basically no creep.
Okay, the Banes are many, but the spread for Terran is good. The counterattack, there's going to be nothing to defend this because the supplies are completely maxed. But this is going to be the 4th base going down. This is going to get pretty tight. These Banes have to do a lot of damage here. The Thor is going to be skipped by the Banes, rightfully so. The Muta's going to dive on that. Great attack in here from Shin. I mean, that was perfect. Meanwhile, oh my God, the counterattack has done so much.
I can't believe that Baneling has got connections like that off of creep.
It's like the Mutas and the Banes had to go past each other to hit the right targets.
But it worked out.
Yeah,
it worked out perfectly there for Shin, and now this counterattack just looks brilliant. The entire natural expansion of ByuN is not mining. The 3rd base was significantly disrupted. You can see the damage the SCV's done. A lot of them are in the red and orange right now. Oh man, if Shin can get +3 infantry weapons, that would be the cherry on top of the cake. He's gonna get it. +3 is denied. And now the Mutas, they're running rampant in the main base.
I mean, this is really starting to pile up. The problem is Zerg, you know, they need to get more Bane. Oh.
You were saying tasteless.
Never mind. That's not the problem. The problem for ByuN now is that there's enough Banes here. I think he could hit hard with another attack. So there's 4 bases for Terran. Honestly, I think ByuN can still win this, but Shin's had his moments. I think Shin had a much harder mid game here, and he's done a very good job. But I don't know if Zerg needs to have like enough bases and enough income where you can pour units into kind of strong arming fights over time.
I mean, the 4th base was denied twice. It got up at, what, 10 minutes and 30 seconds. The mutants struggled to find a lot of damage. ByuN completely controlled the creep spread. All of these point towards ByuN having a pretty easy victory at this stage in the game, but Shin's actual fights have been so good. He is so good at taking just the optimal engagement that things are, if not even, favored for Shin right now. He's taking the 5th base. He's up to 90 workers. +3 infantry weapons still has not been restarted by ByuN. The Hive Tech is now coming in. I mean, Shin is looking so good in this series. I am unbelievably impressed with how he has been able to turn what was not a good early game and not a good mid game into a position like this one.
The question is going to be, how does Shin win a fight and swing it? ByuN's on 4 bases. This base has been a pipe dream this entire game. He's just not able to get it up. You know, Zerg's really forced into a very kind of standard position here. I mean, had you gotten the gold, it would have been great. He's basically spending more and more on Banes. Now, by the way, armies like this are where the Banes should hit because there's no medevacs there. Although right now, ByuN not really able to use his medevacs to pick up against Banelings either.
Good engagement by ByuN on the top side, and we have so many Banelings about to roll into this bio ball. As Taysa said, no medevacs to be found.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't understand why he has no medevacs with this. I guess he just doesn't have a lot of medevacs in general, but you normally want the medevacs to be with the army that's on the map. I guess Mutas can also catch this and kill this.
I think the Mutas have just killed so many medevacs over the course of this game that it's a struggle for ByuN. He's got to kind of triage or at least prioritize where he wants the medevacs to be at any given moment. There are only 5 on the map. And Shin potentially catching another 2 right now.
Oh, one more Muta shot.
I mean, the boost's going to run out, so ByuN's going to drop, and the medevac will be going down.
Okay, I mean, again, it's Terran barely on 4 bases. We're at 15 minutes. The resources are going to be mining out. The command center, by the way, barely goes down.
Shin is playing out of his mind in this game.
It's crazy to see Shin, like this Shin that we're looking at now.
I mean, the early and mid game, they felt so bad. The lack of creep spread, the 4th base getting denied 2 or 3 times in a row, the late expansions.
I actually thought that when the 4th base was killed, we were probably going to be watching like a pretty scuffed counterattack, and that ByuN would just win. Now, by the way, ByuN's been pretty good at conserving his Banes. He's really like done a good job with like fighting some Banes and Mutaling when he can. I think a lot of bad Zerg players will kind of throw Banes at anything, and that means he still has, you know, he's basically sitting on the golden gun here when it comes to the fight.
Oh, this is so smart from Shin, too. ByuN has so many reactors on his barracks right now that it's pretty awkward for ByuN to actually make a transition into Marauders. And ByuN going into the main, or Shin going into the main base, snipes 2 more Tech Labs as he is starting his Ultralist transition, just making things even more challenging here for ByuN.
Uh-oh. Okay, he's kicked the Hornet's Nest. All the Banes are going to come in here from every single angle. Oh my god, I don't know. ByuN. Again, I love that Shin's like running away with the Banes when it's just Thors and Marauders. Banelings are your precious resource.
7 Ultras get started after that engagement.
And the Ultras are basically the crowbar, that pries open the position. Because when you have planetaries and Rain Marauder, you kind of like, you stim, you hit, then you eventually retreat behind the planetary, the SCVs, repair the planetary, and usually it's just like not a good trade. 5th base taken out, by the way. That would matter more if there was actually SCVs there. Okay, so he wants to draw some of the army back. I would assume this is going to pair with an attack up to the front.
Yeah, Shin might actually just trade out these Mutas. In fact, it seems like that's what he's going to do.
He's like, oh no, I have to kill these SCVs so badly. Goes and makes some more Ultras.
Well, the Muta stage of this game is mostly over. There's about half a dozen now. The top left of ByuN's main expansion. That's going to be the cue for the Ultras to start rolling in. We have 14 Marauders, 35 Marines in total, but there are a lot of Thors. This almost looks like a box art army coming in by SHIN and ByuN. So many of these high-tech units. And if SHIN takes these engagements into very small choke points with the Ultras, the Thors actually will make quick work of them. But the issue for ByuN is that the reinforcements coming in by SHIN, there are just too many. That's it. GG is called. SHIN with a sledgehammer of Ultras, able to break open the fourth base, push into the third, and he's going to be advancing to the winner's match versus Cure.
Yeah, I mean, let me turn the cam off before we're even done. ByuN just totally shut down there in the end. SHIN just showing this real understanding of how to navigate all of the TVZ. That was a really tough mid-game. But he knew, what units do I need now? How do I use my banelings efficiently? Don't throw them away. Don't bleed them off. Beautifully done.
It's kind of shocking just watching these games play out because conventional wisdom just tells you that SHIN should be losing these games. And it's not just today. It's also, in the round of 4 and the round of 8. SHIN plays these games where things look very rough, but he's still somehow able to just finagle a victory out of these situations, which doesn't make sense. I mean, the fights by SHIN have been so good in GSL Season 1 and now here in GSL Season 2. He just understands taking engagements perfectly.
We're going to go to a break. When we come back, the winner's match here for our first day of the GSL Season 2.